So here are 25 lessons that I've learned at the age of 25. The ups, the downs, the bad, the ugly. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this video is going to be a little bit more laid back, just telling you my perspective over the last 25 years, really the last 5 years where my life has completely changed. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So my first lesson that I felt was the most important to share is if God isn't enough, nothing else will be. Now, wherever you fall, religious side, if you have a relationship with God, if you don't, I myself am a Christian, so, do with that what you will. But, something that I've found and I realized as you get older and just in life in general that, if God isn't enough, the amount of money you make won't be enough, the girls, the attention that you get, your ego, nothing will ever be satisfied. Now, I believe that we all have this deep down quenching thirst to, be loved and accepted, and that can't come by anyone but through God. Being able to really trust and believe in Him at the end of the day gives you a sense of real confidence, right? Not just, this fake confidence and just believing in yourself and what you can do, but really trusting and believing in God. They say faith without works is dead. So obviously, there's stuff that we have to do and, step up to the plate. Now, the second one is very, very important as well. So it really ties into the idea of wisdom. Now, I feel like when people talk about wisdom, they usually are talking about this head knowledge of, you're wise if you, have all these understanding and use these big words and you're articulate, which yes, there's some wisdom in that. But true wisdom is proven in your actions. Something that Alex Ramosi says, you don't know if someone has truly learned until they don't repeat the same action. And so wisdom can only be seen. It can't just be said. So again, you can look at someone that's wise, that may be smart, but true wisdom comes from the actions that people do. Number 3, consistency is one of the most attractive things, a person can have. I said a man could have, but I genuinely think just across the board, consistency is very important, especially when it comes to success. If you've been on the self-development journey or, want to reach the next level in your life, you will probably understand it takes a level of consistency and it takes a level of being dialed in to your future and what you want to, produce in the world, that, that consistency comes into place. Now, that leads me right into number 4, which is kind of, it almost feels like an oxymoron, like these shouldn't go together, along with consistency, because with consistency comes momentum. What I said here is momentum is a two-edged sword, because you can be consistently doing the wrong things and the momentum will lead you down, or you can be consistently doing the right things and then that'll lead you into the place that you want to be. And that is something that I realized, sometimes I have an all or nothing mentality. And so that's how that, momentum could be a double-edged sword. Number 5, stay calm in all situations, because eventually everything will work out in the end. And I really got that principle. My mom, she's literally the picture of peace, but also another one of my older brother / mentors, his name is Justin P. He's really good at that. He has a sense of peace, calmness, equanimity about him. It's pretty charming. And I've realized that in my own life that worrying has never added anything to my life. It's never been good for me. It doesn't allow me to really see the world for what it is. Having the anxiety, obviously we all have that, but, just not allowing that to control you and having this deep knowing and this faith almost in that, everything will work out in the end. And that takes a level of calmness, and it takes a level of being centered and really knowing yourself to really self-regulate in that way, to say, I may not know what's going on right now, and the world, this is happening and that's happening, or whatever the case may be, but really having this deep knowing that everything will work out in the end. So stay calm. And it's not easy, but you have to continuously remind yourself this every single day that no matter what happens, it'll all work out in the end. Just don't stress yourself out, because at the end of the day, that's not going to add anything positive to your life. It's better to be seen than heard. Now, in the age of social media, when everyone has a voice, an opinion, and they have something to say at every turn or every event. But the thing about this is, there's a cheap dopamine you get when you're talking about stuff and you're saying you're going to do this goal and you're putting this out there and doing all that stuff, but really you're not making true progress. And I've noticed in my life when I'm just like head down, putting in the work, and then, let the fruits of my labor show for itself. And so just keep that in mind, that you don't want to be seen. You want to be heard, right? You want to be understood, and the only way you can do that is by actually being impactful. Use your words wisely, and put more action, act more than you talk. Essentially, put in the work more than you talk about the work. Look, emotional intelligence is a superpower. What I mean by this is not only as a self-regulation tool for your own mental health and emotions, but being emotionally intelligent allows you to deal with people at a very high level and allow you to understand where people are coming from. And it also gives you, and I don't mean this in a manipulation tactic way, but it gives you power over, or influence. I rather say that word. It gives you influence over people. My goal is to be a rock for the people that are around me, that they can trust me, and then that, they can lean on me when times are hard. And not only that, they can trust that I'm regulated enough that they can bring, their bad things, to me. And I think what you end up realizing when you have that emotional intelligence in yourself and you're able to, again, like regulate your emotions, but help other people regulate their emotions, you become a beacon of hope to a lot of people. And, that's hopefully, what I'm doing with this YouTube channel. But that emotional intelligence, it takes a level of dying to yourself in humility, because you truly want to understand people. You just don't want to hear them, you want to understand them. And that's really what emotional intelligence is at the end of the day. Being able to truly understand people at a high level, and also empathize with them, so you can really help them at the end of the day. That's the only reason I feel like we're here. Now look, in the age of Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies and all that stuff, which I think is important. I think obviously we have a new world system that eventually we're all gonna have to fall unto and kneel to at some point. But what I will say with this is the best investment that you can make, especially if you're in your, mid to early 20s, your teens, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Something Alex Ramoli says is, instead of the S&P 500, the SME 500, being that you're in that growing, starting off stage. Go to college if you want to. I personally didn't, and I've been able to amount the small success that I've had in my life thus far. But there's a certain level of power and skill acquisition that you can get to go to the next level when you invest into yourself. For me, in my story, like I said, I went from college to working for myself, did odd jobs here and there, quit my last job in 2019. And now, because of the investments that I've made in myself, whether that is, sleeping on the floor for a year, which is an interesting story. Paying $10,000 for different coaches, $1,000 here for a course, doing all that stuff, it compounds. So I was just talking to my mom earlier today, and I was like, man, I'm so happy for myself, at myself, because I was able to accumulate all these skills. And, I feel like I'm at the point now, I was like, man, I can make money in so many different ways. And she was like, well, Amir, you have to remember this. You've been doing this since you've been in high school. You've been wanting to do this YouTube stuff. You've been getting clients and helping people out and giving strategy and all that stuff for a little while now. And I was like, wow, like that, she just brought some perspective to me. But all of that, it came up to me just investing into myself. The compounding interest that you get in investing into yourself is something that you can't compare to anything else. Concentration, then diversification. Let me tell you actually a personal story with this, right? So I had my creative agency, and I would do this, do that, try this, try that, up until the point of last year to where I closed it down because I just felt like I was building a business that I wasn't really fond of. But if I just concentrated on one thing, and then once that became successful and you maxed it out as much as you possibly can, then you can diversify your income streams, your different businesses and different stuff you want to do. But you have to concentrate. You have to build up this, a good way to look at it, especially if we're talking about finances, is building a tree trunk of wealth. wealth. There's a tree trunk, and obviously with the tree, there's branches and leaves. And so you want to build that thing that's solid that you can stand on, and then you can, branch off from there. But you need to concentration and then diversify on the back end so that you can actually have something of substance. Because if you keep switching into this niche and that niche and this business and that business, but don't actually give it a real shot, then you'll never really see any progress ever. Have nothing to prove to no one except yourself. You have to be very solid with your own self. You have to, for lack of better terms, love yourself and really be self-regulated, to not have anything to prove to anyone else. And again, this common theme of social media, it tells you should be this or you should do that, and you need to be here by this certain age, or you need to be doing that, which I think a lot of that stuff is good advice, don't get me wrong. But that also needs to be met with, you have to prove something to yourself, and you have to become something, not for anyone but yourself. Like it should be no one attached to that, obviously, not in the way of being selfish, but you need to be in a place that where you can prove to yourself, oh, I am a person of value, or I am a person of integrity, rather than, trying to be something for someone else. Again, it's the same analogy that I was saying earlier. Put your mask on before you help other people putting their mask on, because if you try to live your life trying to prove stuff to other people, you'll be very empty at the end of the day. Your word is bond. Don't lie to yourself or anyone else. Now, that may be a difficult thing for some people out there, but this is just a level of integrity that you need to get to in your life, especially as a man, that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. Right? It's just this whole idea of being accountable to yourself. And so make sure when you say something, you actually mean it. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. A lot of people are not like that nowadays, and that's how people become empty, and people become, upset of the lifestyle that they've chosen, etc., etc. But you have to really understand that the more that you lie to yourself, it's this idea called cognitive dissonance, right? You say one thing and you do another thing. So if your mouth is saying, I'm going to do this or become this, but then you do another thing at the end of it, like your actions are different. A simple thing as, I'm going to wake up and do a cold shower this morning, and you say you're going to do it, and then you never do it, right? Then you get into a place where you can't trust yourself, and then now it's hard for you to come back from that, because it's like, oh, I don't even believe my own words. And especially if you want to be a business owner or some type of entrepreneur or in sales, it's like, if you can't even trust your own words, like no one else will. Even if you have some slight conviction of what you're selling or what you're doing, people can sense that authenticity, that if you are lying to yourself, no one's gonna trust you. People can sniff that out. True accountability is just ownership. I got that from this book that is called Uncommon Accountability. And it's just the idea of, I think a lot of us look at accountability as, having a friend or an accountability partner, which I think that's super important. I think that's a big part in my journey. But for myself, that accountability, when I entered true accountability, I no longer needed an outside source or anyone to validate me or even help me to move forward, because I had ownership for my actions. Because no matter how good your accountability partner is or how deep that relationship goes, if you truly, at the end of the day, can't regulate yourself, then what you have is not true success, because it's based on having the need to have someone, keep you accountable. So at the end of the day, I had to take ownership of my actions, my thoughts, the things that I can control. Your teenage years / your 20s, even, some people that may watch this in their 30s, that time should be spent accumulating high income skills or high value skills. Now, a few high value skills that I've, learned for myself is, one, communication. That's the highest level of value. If you know anything about Myron Golden, says that a lot. But along that lines of, a high leverage skill looks something like, sales, understanding marketing, understanding psychology, copywriting. There's a ton of skills that you can learn, just especially, on the internet. But it's very important that you spend your teenage years, and especially your early 20s/teenage years, just accumulating as many skills as you possibly can. Later on in your life, you'll be able to pull from those experiences, and then you'll actually become a person of value, to where now, you can charge what you want to charge and do the things that you want because you have an actual skill. That's something I feel like is missed nowadays, and it kind of goes back to the concentration/diversification. People don't have actual skills. They just kind of have, an accumulation of nothing, not anything solid, because they don't have any proof to back up what they're saying, but that's besides the point. But it is very important that you just accumulate as many skills as you can, and then once you've accumulated enough skills, then that's when you can concentrate and you can charge pretty much what you want, because you've took all this time to actually become valuable to them. And that's been a really big part of my journey. Honestly, I owe, me gaining high leverage skills to pretty much all of my success now. And, not to get all, those meme pages, but, we have to develop in the shadows. It's just true. Sometimes you just got to go away, got to delete social media. You got to get out of, the doom scrolling to the bottom of TikTok. You got to get out of that at some point. There's a time where you shouldn't post content, and you don't need to be doing that, because you need to develop your character, your integrity, your mindset, all the things that last. You know what I mean? Not you trying to just rush and get to 10K a month, because from a person who's done that in 2 different businesses, making 10K a month, one, is not that much money, and 2, not that hard to do on the internet. It's quite pretty simple to do on the internet, but develop in the shadows, man. Just take some time, whether it's 6 months, a year for some people, to just lock down, don't have any distractions. And again, that's a season. That's not like something you do for the rest of your life. There's seasons of just locking down, not really talking to any friends or doing anything like that, but just focusing on what you need to focus on to gain the success that you want to gain. Potential means nothing if not realized. So now what I mean by realize it kind of goes back into the point of, your actions are very important. So it doesn't matter how much potential you think you have or how smart you think you are. Ideas mean nothing at the end of the day. I think that's from like a Gary Vee quote or something like that. I know he said that back in the day, but ideas are truly, they're meaningless. And something that I had to realize for myself, there's actually a guy, I'm not gonna name any names, but he has a company that has this really interesting offer that helps people grow on social media. And before he started to really blow up, I had this idea. I'm telling you, like, it was almost God-given. Like, I had the strategy and everything of how I was going to do it. This guy ends up implementing and doing it. And I kind of had vowed to myself that I'll never have an idea and not act on it, because at the end of the day, again, ideas are worthless until you act on it. And so what I learned from that experience was, if you have an idea, implement it, start as fast as you can. So, someone doesn't come around and start not steal your idea, obviously, because we both, didn't know that we were going to do that. But somebody will end up doing it who's more hungry than you, who has more of a drive. They'll do that, and then you'll be left, looking stupid because you didn't act on the things that you wanted to do. And I say it, maybe harshly like that because, I've been through it as well. Don't blame God for your dumb decisions. I don't know. The culture that we live in sometimes is weird, right? Everyone wants to, curse God, and, it's his fault that this happened and that happened. We live in a fallen world, so, bad things are going to happen regardless. But a lot of the things that do happen to us, we can, that happens in our environment, rather, we can control. And that's why, like, the thing for me is, like, I try to control everything that's in my power. What I eat, if I work out or not, if I get good sleep, how I interact with people, even if they're not giving me a good attitude, but still being a person that is able to deal with those that, aren't favorable, to say the least. But, you have to be able to control the things that you can control, because if not, then you start to get into this point to where you're blaming God for stuff that's your fault. You're maybe, and I can speak for myself, you may be a couple pounds overweight because you ate too many many donuts, or you had too much ice cream in my case. And so it's like, that's not something that you can blame God on, but you can blame yourself and take ownership and accountability, like I said a moment ago, and, you know, be on the way to changing your life. You're one decision away from making that happen. So, you know, don't hold off, and, you know, do that now. Stop searching for happiness. I don't know. Again, this culture that we live in nowadays is very strange to me sometimes, about like what people prioritize, and a lot of people prioritize happiness. And now I'm saying don't be happy, but that shouldn't be a priority, because happiness is fleeting. But something that you can choose is joy. Joy and happiness are two different things. Joy is a understanding and a deep knowing, kind of like a faith that, you know, everything is going to be good, and, you know, that you can choose joy, you know, but happiness is more so like a fleeting feeling that comes and goes. And if you are only looking for happiness in your life, like, I just want to be happy, I think it's a very dangerous thing to say. You know, a lot of people need to be saying, I just want to be productive in life, and I want to be, you know, effective. I think that's a better thing to strive for than just happiness itself, because happiness is a fleeting thing that you can't really build your life on. Being just happy isn't something that you can really build a life worth living on. But choosing joy and being grateful and having gratitude for the things that you can, that's a life well lived. Not like searching for this, you know, this just fleeting feeling of joy, because one moment you can be up and the next you can be down, and then now you've realized you've built your house on sand. Now, let's talk about something I'm probably not so, you know, equipped with, but relationships. If you think you need to be in a relationship, maybe you shouldn't be in one. And I think that's a clear sign that, you know, if you need someone to feel complete, if you need someone to, you know, be with because you, again, can't regulate your own emotions or whatever the case is, that's how you know you shouldn't be in one. The moment that you feel like you need a relationship, that's the time that you should dive deeper into your own mental health, your progression, especially as a man. Dive deeper there, because, you know, once you get with that person is going to be, you're going to idolize them, and they're going to be your world. And the moment they disappoint you, because that's what humans do, you know, you're going to want to run from the relationship. Most of your biggest problems, I feel as though, can be on its way to being solved with an hour or 30 minutes of just focused thinking. I can't remember who said this quote, but thinking is the hardest thing that most people don't do. When you're faced with a challenge, when you're faced with something that's difficult in life, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just go for a walk for an hour, and, you know, maybe some binaural beats or something like that. And just, we've been given this thing that's more powerful than, you know, the strongest supercomputer in the world, our brains. So use it, right? You know, and I think most people don't understand how powerful our brains are and what we can accomplish with a simple time of just thinking, or just get a, you know, pen and a notepad and just start jotting down your thoughts, because a lot of the problems that you're feeling right now, or facing, they can just be solved by thinking and coming up with creative ideas. I believe that God has given us all, you know, the ability to solve problems and creativity, especially if we ask him in that way, like, God, help me solve this issue that I'm dealing with. You know, that is a really good way for you to, you know, be able to use your mind to solve things. And again, I think most people are an hour and a half away from solving some of their biggest issues, because they just need to cut out all the noise for an hour or so to just think and really process what they're going through. Jot it down, and practically on one side of the page you jot down, you know, your problem, and on the next side of the page you jot down all the things that you can do that's in your control to help that problem. If it doesn't take faith, and if it doesn't feel like, if you feel like you can do it all on your own strength without, you know, having other people, or, you know, believing that God could help you in that sense, then it's probably not worth doing. You know, and that's something interesting, especially when we're talking about the idea of purpose and, you know, fulfilling, you know, what you feel like you are on this earth to fulfill. If you feel like you can do it all on your own, it probably isn't something that you should end up diving into. And I say that because, you know, I don't know about you, and I feel like if you are watching this video, you're similar to me in the fact of, I want to do big things in the world. I want to change millions of people's lives. I want to change the lives of my family members. I want to really, be the person that God has called me to be. And in that, that's not an easy task or quest by any means, but because that's such a big and heavy thing, I know I need a big amount of faith, and there's no way I can impact or reach millions of people just on my own. I couldn't. I'm not that good. I'm not that smart. I'm not that cool. I'm not that anything really. And that's not just being self-deprecating to be self-deprecating. It's true. I'm just humble, and humble. Someone says they're humble is probably not that humble, but I'm just aware rather of my downfalls. And the more that you are, your pitfalls and where you are, the more you'll be able to realize like, hey, this life can't be just lived by myself. This life, this thing that I'm going after, it isn't big enough. And if you do have a dream that you feel like you can do on your own and you feel like you don't need faith for, I would really, do what I said a minute ago, take an hour or so and really think about, changing that trajectory and changing, where you're going. Because again, if you don't need faith to do it, then it really isn't big at all. It really isn't a challenge. It really isn't worth doing. And that may be extreme to most people, but that's how I feel. Like, I want to do big things, and I want that for you as well. And so if you're being faced with something that you want to do, or a business idea, or a piece of content, wherever you want to be, if that thing doesn't feel like you need faith, or you really need, something backing you to do it, it's not worth it. Be extremely careful who you publicly affiliate with. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. For myself, I'm very careful on who I publicly associate myself with, because at the end of the day, you only get one name. When you start to mix and mingle with people, I'm not saying don't have relationships with anyone. Obviously, the goal is to have as many people that align with you as you possibly can. And some people, you have to realize, aren't there for you to be aligned with fully, but sometimes there's something that you can help them with, or something they can help you with. Even in that, you have to be hyper aware of who you publicly associate with, especially as you start to climb in ranks and you're working on your integrity and being the type of person you want to become. That you don't want to be mixed with people who don't align with you, because again, you only get one name, only one reputation in life, and you have to fight to keep it integral. You have to fight with all of your might to stay on the course of integrity, because people like that authenticity, and people like that sense of discipline, and it's very attractive to a lot of people. And so just be very aware who you're around, be very aware who you associate with, because at the end of the day, that's shaping your life and who you're going to become. Ego and pride is truly the enemy of all progress. You probably know the book, Ego is the Enemy. And an even better book, I feel as though that's probably better than Ego is the Enemy, is Humility. Right here, let's see if it snaps in focus. Humility by Andrew Murray. Life-changing book. If you want to get slapped in the face and you think you're all that in a bag of chips, it's a good book to read. And I don't even want to talk even too much about it. What I would say is read Ego is the Enemy, read Humility, and then you'll look at life a little bit different. And also you'll look at talking about who you're going to be, and fantasizing about that a little bit different once you've done the hard work, because that's really what humility is. Choosing the harder path, choosing the more difficult path, in that you have to really die to yourself daily, and you have to be honest with yourself. I feel like that's what true humility is: dying to yourself, not searching for your own pleasures and your own just living life for yourself. But it really allows you to look at the world with a little bit more of an open mind, and it allows you to just care more about people in general, just having more humility. So please read Ego is the Enemy and Humility by Andrew Murray. Life-changing books. Having, being a person of integrity and having integrity is really like a compounding, asset of your life. And I know this for myself because, I'm very blessed to have really good relationships from a lot of pretty, decently successful people. And, one thing that they all say and why they genuinely just like having me around is because the integrity that I hold. I have a very high standard for myself, the people that I have around me. And I hope that the same for the people, vice versa for the people that are in my life, because it truly is a compounding asset, even further than the skills or anything like that. If you are truly a good person, and not just a nice person, because that's different. Being like a good person and a nice person is different. Being nice, you have people walk all over you, et cetera, et cetera. But being an actual good human being, it goes way further than people understand. Like, wanting to bring true value to people, caring about people, caring about, their feelings and how they think, and really leaning into that is a compounding asset more than anything that I've said on this whole list, other than putting God first. That's obviously clearly really important. But man, your integrity means everything, and you need to guard that with all your might. The last one is take time for your loved ones, your friends. Life, as I said again, is difficult. It's hard. It's all the things, but truly take time to love and care for the ones that are in your life, whether it be friends or family. And if you don't have people like that in your life, search for those people. Because no one wants to, people in general just shouldn't do life alone. We're not meant to live life alone. Again, social media, metaverse, all this stuff is just the love bug that came out a couple of years ago that trapped everyone in their house. I'm pretty sure I read between the lines of what I'm saying there, that made people isolated and not have people to cherish and they can love on them. And so if you don't have a community like that, join the Increase Your Community. It's free down below. But yeah, join that. But also genuinely though, really find people that you can, do life with, that appreciate you for who you are and you appreciate them for who they are. And if you already have those people in your life, tell them you love them, spend time with them, invest into them. If you can financially, if you can time-wise, investing just doesn't have to be monetarily, but just invest into those relationships, because those are the things that last in life. Having good relationships with people and just living a full life. And so with that, hope you enjoyed this 25 lessons at the age of 25, and have a good one. Okay, so 25 lessons. Obviously, shout out to Fabian, the editor told me I forgot 25. So what better than the person that I've learned all my stuff from anyway, my dad, to give you number 25. So Dad, shows you, the floor is yours. Just okay. Keep looking at the room.
So I think, one of the things is limit your distractions and know when you are being distracted is a key, because sometimes what we tend to do, we tend to go back to what's comfortable and what's the norm, and not realizing it's a distraction to the purpose and where you need to go. So that's something that you have to really pay attention to and know the temperature when it's about to happen for you, because when the distraction, when the temperature of the environment or wherever you're in, when you start seeing something that's normal and comfortable to you, that's the distraction. And sometimes we think that the comfortability is the busy time or the right thing that we're doing, and all it is a distraction to the purpose of what you're supposed to be doing.
And man, you heard the wisdom from the man himself that gave me all the wisdom I have. Don't be distracted, just that simple, right?
Absolutely.
Don't fall back into that comfortable spot. So lesson 25, hope y'all enjoy. Peace.